Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the third day of the Pagan World Congress. And today we're starting off with Marty Mullenax and talking about the Appalachian, and we have a whole day of programming. Check it out at pwc2025.nig.com, and it'll be all throughout the internet. And let me hand it over to Marty to speak about Appalachia.
Everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Marty Mullenax, and I am an Appalachian folk magic practitioner, or Appalachian folk healer, living in Western Maryland. My partner and I own Bull and Thorn Metaphysics. It's an online store dedicated to serving our local community and greater community. We are also the co-founders of the Coven of Woodbine, an interfaith circle of practitioners here locally within the area. I am extremely honored to be presenting with such an amazing and accomplished group of people. I want to thank the Pagan World Congress for hosting this amazing event filled with so many wise, knowledgeable, and talented individuals. Appalachian folk magic is something that I have been raised in. It is a practice that has shaped the very foundation of my past and continues to drive me forward to this day. Sorry. It is a magical system based on practicality, blending many diverse practices and beliefs from around the world. To be able to share this with you all truly means the world to me. So let's get into this. Is Appalachian folk magic? Well, to describe it in its simplest form, it's a regional system in traditions such as French, Irish, German, and English folk traditions and faiths with New World practices like indigenous traditions from here and in Africa, from diasporic traditions as well, with heavy influences from Protestant Christianity. It kind of became a mixed bag of old world traditions and Protestant Christianity and indigenous kind of diasporic practices. Due to its development in isolated rural mountainous parts of Appalachia itself, it kind of became its own unique tradition. It kind of focused on the practicality of survival and carrying on traditions from our ancestors and caring for the land in our community. I want to take a moment to talk about the history of these mountains because they are old, they are ancient. They hold a lot of historical value that has been around since before the formation of bones, before trees. About an hour's walk from my house is a place called the Bone Cave. Researchers have found bones so old that they have been naturally crystallized. I mean, the time and process that it takes to crystallize bone takes millions to thousands of years. And this mountain range alone in Appalachia is some of the oldest mountains above water. And honestly, they deserve a lot of respect and their stories deserve to be told. Some of them are still buried deep, deep in the rocks here. So, I mean, we have a lot to discover still. The Appalachian Mountains are filled with rich and amazing traditions. Some of the many from our region include things like Dutch hex signs brought over by German traditions, powwows that we see every year of Native American traditions that, are still trying to bring people in and keep things alive for their tribes. We see a lot of things from different traditions like cartomancy, which originally was, done in China because that's where cards came from. But I kind of feel that it was perfected, the ability to read with a deck of playing cards came from France. Like I don't know how to put it other than that the French court really did some work there. There are many different forms of divination as well here in the mountains. We have people that do tarot cards. We have people that do runes. I've met people that throw bones in fire and read the cracks that form in them. Like, it's just so diverse here in just divination alone that it's astounding. And then we have many of the African diasporic traditions that were brought over during the slave trade that helped to solidify and enrich the traditions of herbalism here, which everyone here kind of uses. We are very big on foraging. We love our plants. The Scotch Irish and many of their traditions were brought over from beliefs, and we still hold the Highland Festivals here today, which is an event that celebrates Scottish heritage here in the mountains of Appalachian in Western Maryland. So when we get to kind of like the key beliefs, core values, what we're talking about is our overall beliefs and practices. It's things that kind of tie our community together as witches. As a practitioner in the area of the mountains, these things kind of matter and keep us bonded together. We aren't really, can't really say that we're not a faith-based practice, because we do believe in a lot of things and a lot of like superstitions and folklore, but at the same time, we are different in what we worship and what we believe in. I was raised United Methodist. I still relate kind of a lot of things back to God and the Bible, and I mean, call it old habit that refuses to die, but at the same time, the Bible itself is a book of magic. Psalms is a powerful, powerful story in the book. But I like to believe that we all are kind of finding our own sacred divine path, and that we shouldn't judge one another based on personal faith. I have people who practice Satanism that identify as Appalachian folk witches. We know people that worship Hellenistic deities that identify as Appalachian folk. We worship and believe in many different things in many different cultures. So let's get into what kind of ties our community together. Nature is sacred, and it's kind of where we get our food, our shelter, and even our clothing. Everything around you has come from nature. Some of it has been super processed to suit our needs. Other times it is so we get into ties together. Nature is one of the core things. Oh Lord. Me and technology do not get along very well. Where was I? Oh, yes. Even synthetic stuff comes from nature on an atomic level. Everything has to come from the earth, really. So, I mean, it's truly sacred to us. Sorry about all of that. I just got caught up. Our ancestors, spirits, and the land play an active role in our daily lives, and we very much honor that. We would not be where we are today if it wasn't for our families, and not for the ones living, but our ancestors as well. I remember my grandmother had a wall of, family members and past ancestors and things like that, and I would often kind of walk past it and wonder, were their lives difficult? Did they have to struggle and suffer? It's kind of a thing that we're going through now, but in a different format. I remember kind of talking to my family about having gifts, about, being precognitive and things like that, because my grandmother loved to talk about it, so did my mom. I remember asking the question as a kid if during the Inquisitions, if our family would have been in hiding. And I remember them very much telling me, yeah, we probably would have been. I remember playing in the woods as a kid, and things would go silent. We know that we would have to leave. Gardening has always played a major part in this area. We have harvest festivals, and we love a good reason to come together. I mean, just say that someone made apple pie and we're there. When I say magic is practical, it's not ornamental. I mean it in a way that spell work and rituals are meant to be productive things. A lot of our work where I live is practicality, and we work to help each other get by in life. If someone is sick, we have remedies to share. A mother always has baby advice for each other, for teething, fussiness, and anything related to being a mom. You can always find a mom with a folk remedy. Um, we are always ready to exchange knowledge or gift remedies to each other, but we don't have fancy rituals really, or like a church or a temple that we go to where I'm at. We kind of just all kind of collectively get together, hold potlucks, kind of really check in with each other is where what I'm getting at. Because it's harder in more rural areas to build things like this. My circle of people kind of do their own thing, and another collective of people kind of do their own thing, but we don't have set rituals for what we do. It kind of varies coven to coven and tradition to tradition, depending on how much granny magic is brought into this. Where I live is a low income based area. We are a dying coal town that's desperately trying to revitalize the area through the use of natural trails, recreational sports. So a lot of us resort to making or doing some form of crafting. So when I say it's not about what you own, it's about what you can do, that's what I mean. I personally love a good reason to carve a wand, make a magical tool. I have another friend who owns a mini forge in their backyard. So they blacksmith and they make some very interesting pieces. I've actually am going to commission some from them once we get a few more pieces back up and running. Um, Another of our coven members is obsessed with growing plants. Um, she's going to turn her whole living room into a grow room so that she can continue to grow plants all year round. She's just, why deal with seasonal depression when you can have spring all time in your house? Another coven member of ours is all about sewing and costuming. She's sewn robes for me to do readings while I was at events. Um, a lot of us up here in the mountains, we have hobbies that we really enjoy and that we love to exchange with one another. A lot of us work together and exchange the gifts we have with one another. Many of us work in solidarity where I live, but we have no problem reaching out to each other to try and get help or assistance with problems or situations. This is why I say community matters to us. Without each other coming together and talking, being able to do things together, we wouldn't, nothing would be done. We we would be so scattered that we wouldn't be connected at all. And solidarity is a great way to practice, but can also be detrimental. Sometimes you just kind of need each other for encouragement, for work that you haven't done before, or simply just to talk. Um, Having a greater social sphere in the area matters, and it's important. All right, so let's get into. We are going to the essence of Appalachian folk magic. Let's get to our journey to uncover some of the practices that encapsulate the essence of Appalachian folk magic. These types of everyday spell work are highly common where I live, and they are often used by practitioners in my area of the mountains. So these are things that I'm very familiar with people using. Um, Spell jars. When we begin, let's talk about like spell jars and the simple yet powerful tool that is very often employed for protection or for manifestation of desire. I can't tell how many people here love a good spell jar. Um, their appeal lies in the accessibility that anyone can create one using everyday items. Moreover, a lot of us here in Allegheny County can our own food, so canning jars are always accessible, stuff like that. Where I live specifically is a burnt down glass factory, and a lot of the times during heavy rains, the glass that didn't break up whenever it burnt will rise to the surface and kind of float downriver. And you can find these old ancient bottles that you can use that they're just cool looking. I've always loved them. Um, Herbal magic and remedies, this practice is rooted in the understanding of the native plants and the life that intertwines with the folk magic and the practical healing. Many of us get our understanding from plants and folk remedies from family members and friends. I have an amazing cousin who can make fantastic goat's milk soap, an aunt that can tell you old folk remedies that people have never heard of, a friend that makes a fire cider so good that it'll cure a cold faster than you can crack a whip, and a grandma that taught me how to grow plants and keep them alive and healthier than anything you could ever see. We love a good forage day. We love to find plants. Chicory grows wild here where I'm at. Um, Along with burdock, goldenrod, marshmallow, many other fantastic herbs. A lot of these people just classify them as weeds here. It astounds me. Uh, every spring, you can catch us foraging for ramps, a type of wild native onion that's fantastic in food, and morel mushrooms, which are another delectable but rare find. Herbal remedies and magic is kind of the bread and butter here because it's so readily accessible. Iron charms introduce another fascinating aspect to folk magic. Historically, iron was believed to ward off evil spirits, and this tradition still kind of persists today in the form of iron cross necklaces meant to ward off evil spirits trying to possess a person, to the wrought iron fencing that's still seen around graveyards, which was believed to keep spirits trapped on hollow ground so that they could move forward. Um, I I'm guilty of this. I will find railroad spikes because they are often used in protection around here. Nailing them into the four corners of your property is said to create a sort of barrier or grid so that you can protect your home, kind of like a ward. Um, all of these ancient customs kind of blend with contemporary beliefs, and you'll find more and more reasons to just keep using these little iron charms. Kitchen witchery. So we must acknowledge kitchen witchery, which is integrated intention and magic into everyday cooking. From a simple batch of welcome to the neighborhood cookies to the comfort soup your grandma used to make whenever you were sick. Even that friend's fire cider recipe that I mentioned before. A lot of our traditions of love and care are passed on through the foods we make for one another. A simple family recipe cookbook is actually a book of spells that the family or community use to take care of each other. One of my fondest memories is my mom making cheeseburger soup. It was a meal that always made me feel comfortable because everybody loved it, and it's just so much fun to talk about and tell people about. Who knows about cheeseburger soup? As I mentioned earlier on, diverse forms of divination are astounding here. Um, they offer insight, wisdom, guidance, drawing from a rich tapestry of cultures and influences. Many people I have met in my area practice many forms of divination, and not just one. I personally like using dice, dominoes, playing cards, and coins, but I'm kind of the what's in your pocket guy. But I know many fabulous tarot readers. I've even met a few people who, like I said, do readings by dropping bones into fire and reading the cracks that form from the heat of the bone. There are so many diverse forms of divination that it really honestly becomes hard to keep up with. The same guy that I mentioned that owns a forge in his backyard does runes, and he is amazing at them. So, I mean, like, there are just too many here. A lot of different traditions. Um, Lastly, I want to bring up dying arts and crafts, which kind of serve as a bridge to our past. Many of us have done crafts. Many have done crafts that are being replaced by industrial or machine work. With the advent of AI and 3D printing, even more crafts and art are dying off. So many of us try to use these crafts and arts as a way to connecting to our ancestors and preserving the craft for our next generation. Hmm. Let's get on to the exploration of tools of the trade. These priceless objects passed down through generations are like hidden gems from the past. They are not merely objects, they serve as a gateway and a connection to our ancestors while guiding us to our present endeavors. So, family heirlooms. These cherished items invoke nostalgia. They bring about a sense of connection to the past and to our loved ones, and to our family and ancestors. Family heirlooms can truly be anything as well, from a stack of old books to a handwritten and scribbled, like just scribbled in the margins, to your dad's old pocket knife, to a trunk filled with old gowns and outfits from a bygone era. These things hold a connection to the past that help guide us into the future. Next, we encounter community cookbooks, as I've brought up many times before. These volumes present far more than simple recipes. They embody epic sagas of creativity and resilience. They showcase our ability to comfort not only ourselves, but those around us. A common thing to see at any event, marriage, funeral, baby showers, whatever, is buffalo chicken dip here. We have people that bring it to our coven meetings. It's that common. One of my friends jokingly said that she had never heard of the stuff until she moved here, and now it's at every event. But it goes to show how interconnected the community is with food and with the area that it lives in. We love the stuff, and everyone has a different recipe, but it's always buffalo chicken dip. I also want to turn our attention to oral traditions, the original storytellers. These narratives capture the essence of our heritage, resonating with the values and memories that our forebears held. Much of our folklore in the mountains comes from watered down tales and stories from our parents and grandparents. I know many people around the world have heard of the American legend of Bigfoot. Most people in America are familiar with stories of Mothman or the Flatwoods Monsters, even. But here in the mountains, I grew up with a different tale and story. Things like the Snallygaster, a dragon like creature that had tentacles on its face for a mouth. It originated in the 1700s as a German tale, originally called the Schnallergeist, or Fast Ghost. It was a creature that was said to fly in the wind and steal children or livestock. I also grew up with tales of a tribe of the Little Feet, a fabled race of cunning little people that used to live in the caves of the mountains, or the Tommyknockers that live in mines and warn of impending mine collapse to any miner who happened to hear the distant warnings. Finally, I want us to consider the wisdom of the land. A deep knowledge of our ancestors possessed about the land has served as a vital survival toolkit and continues to guide us today. For instance, I was recently at a job interview for a cannabis grow industry because it's legal where I live. I was asked on a scale from 1 to 10 how well I can utilize the plant. I went into a deep dive explanation as to how I can extract the oils, trichomes, all of this stuff, and kind of could do just about anything with the plant. I could even make rope, clothing, textiles, building material that's nearly flame retardant. Um, it's just kind of astounding the things that I went into, but at the same time, these were traditions that were taught to us by family members. We wouldn't have this knowledge if it wasn't handed down to us. finally, I want to get into kind of the modern revival and respect. So with that, let's begin our exploration into the contemporary revival of Appalachian folk magic. When we talk about the subject, the first we must ask ourselves is a question of identity. Who are we within the tradition, and how do we define what we do? Historically, Appalachian practitioners were called by many names: witch doctor, folk healer, and even Browcher. I don't know if I even pronounced that correctly. In communities influenced by German traditions, at least. These titles carried the weight and were deeply tied to roles a person played within their community. It's important to remember that these traditions were not written down on books or codified into schools of thought. They were passed on orally from one family member to another, from neighbor to neighbor, often through casual sayings, household remedies, or even superstitions muttered in passing. Knowledge is preserved in whispers, stories, and practices shared at the kitchen table or in the garden. Today, many people don't feel the need for old titles. Instead, they simply call themselves a witch, or they say that they practice folk magic. Yet some of the practitioners still proudly hold on to the older names and honor the ancestors with the heritage they carry. The best way to show respect is to just ask someone directly, what do you practice? What do you call yourself? This simple act of curiosity and respect opens a door for understanding. Now, one of the biggest questions surrounding Appalachian folk magic is whether it should be seen as an open tradition or closed tradition. On one hand, many argue that it is a closed tradition because this practice has historically been safeguarded within families and tight-knit communities through oral traditions. You could learn if you were brought up in it or if a practitioner trusted you enough to share. And even then, teachings didn't look like formal instructions. It was subtle, like I said, in passing, in secret. It was a grandmother telling you don't sweep after dark or you'll sweep your luck away. It was a parent leaving you to figure out why you always put a piece of iron above the doorway. Lessons often came in passing, never fully explained, and rarely written down. This creative sense of privacy and secrecy, which is why some feel that the practice must remain closed within those born into it. On the other hand, others believe that there is a more inclusive approach. They argue that by writing down these traditions, recording the histories and the stories, and publishing the practices, we allow them to be preserved for future generations and shared with people who feel called to the path, but may not be born in the mountains or raised in the families. In this perspective, Appalachian folk magic becomes a living, evolving tradition, shaped not by bloodline, but by spirit, intent, and community. So where does that leave us? Ultimately, the answer lies in your own journey and what you feel called. In conclusion, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the resilience of our community. We share a profound that sustains us, but also with the spirits of the land. We also share that same connection with our ancestors, our community, and the rich tapestry of unity that binds us together and holds us in times of comfort and in forms of resilience in our nature. I would like to thank all of you for being part of this journey, for understanding and celebrating together. Let us nurture these invaluable connections. Together we can thrive in unity. I would like to thank both of my partners. Without either of them, I would never have been able to complete this presentation on time. I would like to also thank my dear friend Maddie and B. You guys have lifted my spirits when I was about to crash out in frustration and kept me grounded when I had so much going on. And I would like to thank all of my friends who have supported me through all of this with words of encouragement and kindness. You all have been a blessing. But most importantly, I would like to thank all of you, the amazing presenters, the amazing audience that tuned in, and all of you have just truly made a dream come true for me, being my first presentation on my birthday. So truly, all of you have made a dream come true, and I would like to thank all of you. with that being said, if you have any questions, I'll still be here for a little bit. But other than that, I guess I'm going to sign off. And that was quicker than I thought it was going to be. Thank you guys so much for all the words of encouragement